song that you just heard is based on the Old Testament book Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is an existential manifesto. It's a humanist lament and reckoning in the midst of the Old Testament. And it is unflinching in its wisdom. This is the book that begins, "Vanity of vanities, all is vanity." So, the word for vanity in Hebrew is hebel. And as the case with all translations, indeed all conversations, especially ones with the ancients, its meaning is imprecise. So there are other equally valid translations of the word hebel. Some scholars translate it as meaninglessness or meaningless. So it would begin, meaningless, meaningless, all is meaningless. Others translate it as breath, which to my way of thinking has two connotations. One, that breath is transitory and cyclical. Two, that breath is both ephemeral, you can't grasp it, and essential. It is life. So, breath of breath, everything is breath. Or transitoriness. Life is transitory. And suddenly we've got a Buddhist book in the midst of the Hebrew Bible. Fancy that. Can you dig that wisdom? And that's just the first line. The teacher, as the author is called, the teacher, goes on to tell us that there is nothing new under the sun. That everything that has happened, or that will happen, has happened. That the pursuit of wisdom is like chasing the wind. And that its opposite, self-indulgence, is equally empty. So now he's like a Hebrew Taoist. Kind of. Anyway, many who read this book come away with a sense that life is futile. But I think that they miss the point. I think, rather, that the point is that life is tenacious. That it goes on. Life is a force that moves through us like breath through a woodwind. Not that life belongs to us to make an impact on, but rather that we belong to life. Our struggles and strivings, our tragedies and self-righteousness, our love, even our love, are ultimately not about effectiveness, but experience. We are contingent beings. We are contingent on life. Contingent means dependent and on and influenced by. So we are contingent beings caught on the web of existence and the wheel of fortune, and there is nothing new under the sun. Everything is breath, but breath is life. Breath is transitory and cyclical and not about us. Even as we are one of the instruments of its expression. Some find this upsetting. To me, it's liberating. It says, relax. It's not all up to you. There's nothing new, and you will likely see it all. There's no final achievement. It's all already been done. So this way of thinking gets me off the hamster wheel. Nothing new under the sun, and it's just breath anyway. I don't think that's defeatist at all, because this also means that we are of that eternal life force. And if we belong to the life force, then there is something eternal within me. And that allows me to step out of my day-to-day perspective and suggests that when I do, I'll be able to find the peace and the patience of that which is for its own sake. That is to say, the eternal and cyclical flow of life itself, and even beyond life, of existence itself, the peace and patience of the interconnected, timeless web of existence is within me and within you. So that is pretty far out. You might call it a transcendental attitude. You might call it pie in the sky. And while it sounds intriguing, it also sounds like, what? Stepping outside of my day-to-day perspective and into the eternal? I mean, you may wonder what kind of doctor is writing my prescriptions. It doesn't sound very grounded, but it is. It is the most grounded, I would argue, because it is through the recognition of the essential that this perspective opens up. It's through the recognition of the essential existential stuff of us that such an attitude is available. It's through the recognition of the transitory and cyclical nature of life itself that peace is offered. And that transitory and cyclical nature of life itself is embodied right here. It's grounded in us. We are the ground given breath. Touch your skin. You are the earth. Know that you are the earth. We are soil, constantly decomposing and recomposing. We are soil that can sing for a time. We are a drop of the water cycle, condensed and falling, and for a moment catching and beautifully reflecting the light of our sun before we soak back into ground. And then to rise as life, as grass, as color and bone, and fall again, if it could be said to be a fall, to earth, to loam. We are amazing. This whole enterprise is amazing because we have the ability to change the shape and function of our local system, from the system of the soil to the system of an identity, and back, and then to the system of another entity, and back. I don't say that we do this today necessarily, but we do this as a planetary system, as the skin of a planet. The earth as the home from which we depart and return, somehow without ever leaving. A constant return to home. Return to what you are, return to who you are, return to where you are born and reborn again. The home of your soul, the soil, where life goes to let go of itself, to break down, to release, and thereby begin again. For without decay, there is no soil. Without soil, no seed could flourish. No seed would be fed. And this is true both biologically as well as poetically. It is true existentially as well as mythically. And it is true all the way up and all the way down, from cosmic cycle of life itself to the personal cycle of our own lives to the myriad cycles of life within our lifetimes. Parts of us must decay so that fresh parts can flourish. Chapters, themes, and characteristics of our identities must be allowed to compost so that fresh characteristics, themes, and chapters may arise. And yet, the temptation is to hold on to what we are. How often do we hold on to the stories we tell ourselves and about our relations, the stories we tell ourselves about our experiences, these stories that we've outgrown? If we hold on so tightly to what we were, we do not allow who we are to emerge. We stifle our life that way. And it happens all the time because change is hard for us. Change, we don't know what's on the other side of the cocoon. That's faith. Even for Unitarian Universalists. Change is hard. And yet stifling our decomposition, that's where this concept, dukkha, the Buddhist concept of suffering, that's where that comes from. Grasping onto things that are no longer even there causes us to suffer. But why are we so afraid? Why is it so hard to trust our own becoming? This is where getting in touch with that eternal life force that animates you, that part of you that is not contingent, that part of you that is unchanged since light. By getting in touch with that, perhaps through the door of this wisdom that there is nothing new under the sun, that everything is cyclical and transitory, by getting in touch with that, you are more easily able to let go of what needs letting go of and trust your depth. Trust your decay. For the seeds of you need the decay of you. And the patience of the eternal allows us to relax. So relax. Trust the seeds. What seed will you trust in your depth?